Hello, I hope everyone's doing great. Thank you for joining me on my channel again. I know I've not recorded in a very long time, but I needed a break. I'm sorry. I just wanted to be lazy. I wanted to be a couch potato, and I just wanted to do nothing. But I'm here with another video today. This was a completely unexpected video that Dave and I recorded. And if you don't know who Dave is, so Dave James, a wonderful human being. He was a nurse turned podiatrist turned coach. And if you've not heard of him, or I'm sure you have, unless you've been sleeping under a rock for like ever. But if you've not heard of him, please go check him out. I will link his socials in the description box. You can go follow him. If you're not following me, please follow me on all my socials as well. But yes, so this video starts randomly out of nowhere because we were having a conversation, and every time I have a conversation with Dave, I'm like, I need to record this conversation because it flows so naturally. We're spitballing ideas, and it's just a fantastic conversation to have with Dave anytime. I highly recommend it. He's a genius, and he's incredibly creative. And he did not pay me to say any of this. Kind of. No, I promise he didn't pay me to say any of this. But yeah, so we were gonna record another day because your girl's not wearing any makeup, and I'm like, oh well, we'll record another day. It's fine. But then this conversation we were having was so fire that, I was like, you know what, let's just record. Like this is a great conversation. Everybody needs to hear it. It's so incredibly inspiring. So yes, I hope you enjoyed the video. I don't know whether I'm going to break it up into parts just as yet, because it is, depending on how long it is, I'll try and break it up into parts. And if I do, here's part one. And if not, here's all of it. Enjoy. I made a mistake.
I love that. I just love the fact that Zoom has got such a shitty voice for its thing. How much did you make? I keep joking about this. How much did you make last year, Zoom? Oh, billions. Well, why can't you actually get Samuel L. Jackson? Imagine Samuel L. Jackson doing that. We are now recording, motherfucker.
Oh my god.
Love that. You could pick your voice. You could have Samuel L. Jackson. You could have Morgan Freeman, or who's the other guy? James Earl Jones.
Oh,
yeah, James Earl Jones.
I would love to have Brad Pitt's voice.
I don't know. Brad Pitt, amazing actor. I love Brad. I love his films. I love. Do you know the film I haven't seen of his is Meet Joe Black? I've never watched that film.
I love that film.
I know, and I've seen the bit which keeps coming on YouTube when I look at stuff is the bit where he's doing patois, where he's in the hospital, and this woman kind of looks at him and she's like, well, "I'm gonna die," and he goes off and does this. It's gonna be all right, and it's just amazing. I was terrible patois. That's why I've never learned patois. But I love it, and there's something about his acting skills, and he's great in Snatch. What are the films? Mr. and Mrs. I love Mr. and Mrs. Smith, bizarrely enough, with Angelina Jolie. That's good fun. But yeah, Brad Pitt stuff is fantastic. Ocean's 11. I think he's in Ocean's 11.
I don't know. I didn't really watch any of like the Ocean's 11 stuff, like the whole thing that they went on. But I do remember what you're talking about with Joe Black, because he. Whoa. Okay. Just playing my guitar, don't mind me.
yeah, I was talking to you. You're really dull. I'm going to play my guitar instead.
Yeah. Fuck you when you're coaching.
That's not the first time someone said that to me this week, but there you go.
What, this week?
Yes.
Oh my god, what happened?
Oh no, I was with a friend, and I kind of get a bit coachy with a friend, and they're like, no, can't be coached by you, and then they come back to me the next day and say, yeah, actually, something happened. It's like, okay, there we go. It works. Yeah, this shit works.
I was so actually it's really funny you say that. So I was my partner's dad recently got remarried, and we went to the wedding and stuff like that, and I had a few glasses of wine, and so did the partner's daughter, and her and I we got on like really, really well. And we ended up talking, and then the conversation turned to business, obviously, because I was like, yeah, you need to like have your own like blog page, you need to have your own like trademark, you need to like go buy this, and then you can open up a franchise. And I was just like, and she's like, so do you have like your own business? I'm like, no. but I've got ideas. It just turned super, super preachy. And I'm like, I need to tone it down, because first of all, I'm in a family setting. Nobody wants to hear that. So it's like, I feel like you need to I especially need to pick my audience very carefully, because it can turn preachy very quickly.
So, and that's really interesting. And actually, as a coach, it's very tempting to coach people. So I'll do it to people. I'll kind of ask a question. So is that really true? And then you realize that you're actually starting to coach them. And there's one of the phrases which we get kind of in the coaching community is never coach without permission. So it might be you turn around to someone and say, look, I've got a really good question I want to ask you, but it might sound a bit coachy. Is it okay if I ask you? You don't have to answer it. And then once they say, yeah, that's fine, you've kind of got permission to go in and to go and coach them a little bit more. But yeah, it can get preachy. But getting preachy and it comes from passion, and it comes from genuinely wanting to serve and help people. It's not a what's the word I'm looking for? It's not something which is false. It's actually where you want to genuinely help. And it's interesting, she said to you, do you actually have your own business? Well, okay, the answer technically no, although I would argue that you're in the business of you. And so you could say, yes, I do have my own business. It's actually my marketing and my branding. It doesn't have a limited on the end of it, or an LLC, or a tax, whatever. But actually, yeah, I'm in the business of me. And you've got assets which can show that. But you don't necessarily have to have been in a business to be able to advise people on that business.
That's so true. And I think that was my answer that I gave her as well. I'm like, I manage myself. Like I manage my own personal brand. And my partner, who's sitting there the entire night sober as a skunk, like he doesn't drink at all. Like he's like, no, like he goes to the gym all the time. Like he lives at the gym, he eats clean, doesn't drink. Like he's just like the epitome of good health, like something you want to strive to. Not necessarily something that's fun, but something you kind of want to strive to. Like that's where you want to be. And he was telling me the entire night, I was giving out advice to people I just met for the first time in my life. And I'm like, that's the alcohol. That sober me would never have done that. I would not. But when this girl was talking about how she was offered to so she's a dance teacher, and somebody offered to sell her their business and their client list. And I was like, that's great. And it was for really, really cheap too. And I was like, that's great. You can, that's like a startup. Like you can start from there, and then you can buy another dance school and then another one. And then you can implement your own ideas. So it doesn't have to be, it doesn't just have to be a dance school. You can put your own equipment in there, and you can turn it into something more. So you can start doing implementing exercise therapy in your dance school, and you can make it more. So, okay, maybe the startup initial is a bit shit, but it doesn't have to stay shit. So there's room for growth there. You could do so much more. And then eventually you can have your own franchise.
Yeah.
And then she's like, oh, that sounds really great. And she was really buying into it. I was like, oh, I really need to stop. And then she turned around and she was like, oh, do you have your own business? I was like, I manage my own personal brand. And I'm like, oh, I don't have my own business though. Technically, I'm not making any money on me.
Not yet.
Not yet, but you're right. I was, even though when I was in that drunken state, it was very clear that I was very passionate about growing yourself, not staying stagnant in something. And I think that's one thing that when I do eventually graduate from podiatry, I want to make sure that I'm not stagnant. I'm always growing. And that could be academic, even though I'm not very academic, but it could lead to something very academic or just something. But as long as I don't stay in one place for too long, that I feel like it dulls you.
Yeah, I get that. And if I look at my kind of history, so nursing to podiatry, did well in my podiatry degree, which I think surprised everyone, including me. Although I did a shitload of work for it. And then waiting 5 years to go and do a master's degree, but doing lots of courses in between, and then plenty of courses afterwards. So you kind of keep moving forward. So you have to do that. Going back to your partner's father's daughter. The person you were talking to was drunk anyway. This is like the dog's friend, cousin's next door neighbour's cat. It gets
No, she was so lovely. Like the minute we met, we just connected right away. Well, not right away, but like as soon as drinks were involved, we connected even better.
But the question I would simply ask her is, first of all, what does a dance studio look like? If you had to show me a dance studio, which is a standard dance studio, what would it look like? And probably describe it. And it may be, okay, obviously never been to a dance studio myself, apart from when my daughter went. Mirrors and people lined up and tutus and plies and all that kind of stuff. Okay, cool. So you know what a dance studio looks like. If you could rip up the rule book on what a dance studio looked like, what would you do? What would you do differently? Nothing is off the table. It might be, I don't know, you might introduce a Lionel Richie dance school, which is where everyone's dancing on the ceiling, or using telephones and based on the word hello. I don't know, but what, and also looking at other industries and saying, what do they do there, which you can bring across to here? What can they do? What do they do over there which you can bring across to here, and what can you take from yours and put into their industry? And I look at this from a podiatry perspective. Why is it that podiatry clinics have to be set up in a single chair clinic has to be set up in a particular way in a particular room? Why is the unit a particular style? Why does the drill have to be a particular style? And I know there's restrictions based on the equipment that we need in order to provide a service. But what if we were to look at other industries and other ways of managing client throughput and other things and bring those? And I know some clinics do this really well, but they always seem to gravitate back to a clinic looks a particular way, a podiatrist looks a particular way, a podiatrist behaves a particular way. And I'm kind of like, well, why does it have to? Why can't we do things completely differently? What's back to, for me, that's personality. Why are we stifling personality? Why are we not bringing our personality into it? I think I know the answer. I think the answer is partly down to fear. It's fear of being different. It's fear of maybe having repercussions from professional bodies and membership organisations, and that's very real for a lot of people. But that holds back. This is I'm going to get my soapbox now. This holds back how we put the profession out to the world and how people see the profession. Because if everyone looks the same, you're invisible. But if people look different, they stand out. And when people stand out, people are attracted to them. And when people are attracted to them, you can then give people your message and you can help more people. But it comes from asking the question, well, if this is what things normally look like, what if we just ripped the rule book up and did it completely different?
I agree. Rip it up. Who needs a rule book? Get it out. I mean, like you're totally right. Like we do need certain standards, like health standards and safety standards that we have to follow.
Yeah.
Other than that, though, the field's pretty open. And going back to what you said about the fear, I like that you said that, and I like that you brought that up, because when we think about our evolutionary pattern and growth and stuff, fitting in was a survival mechanism. Fitting in order to survive, we had to be liked by our peers in order to ensure that the tribe would protect us and we could grow and we could procreate and stuff like that. We don't need that anymore. We really don't need that anymore, because I think people now are so self-sufficient that we can technically survive on our own.
I think to some degree, yeah, I think there's some truth in that. But what I would say is that we're hardwired for connection. We are hardwired for connection. And while it's, yes, we in smaller groups, so smaller villages and communities, yes, you want to be liked by people, because otherwise people would go, off you go, and they push you out, and whatever ugly creatures were out there would probably eat you alive. Now it's safety and fear are very, very different, but we're still hardwired for connection. I mean, look at the recent kind of pandemic lockdowns. I mean, how many people have been craving connection and just haven't been getting it? And how has that influenced, mental health problems and all of the other stuff which is going on? So we're hardwired for connection. I think where it gets interesting is that we try and generate connection with everyone by being likable, where actually what we want to do is generate real connection with people who are like us, who want to be us maybe, and who know, like, and trust us. So that's the essence of marketing. But so I want people, what was it post? My lovely whiteboard, first thing I drew on it was a large cock. And I know, and it's very, 48-year-old man drawing a huge penis on a board. Okay, that's a bit juvenile, but at the same time, that's my sense of humor. So if I put that out to the world, I'm going to get some people come back and go, that's not funny. Cool. You're probably never going to work with me. But then I get some other people coming back going, yeah, that's really funny. Or as one person said, yeah, your cactus doesn't look particularly good. It needs more spines on it. Now, those are the people who I want to be connecting and communicating with. The people who don't find my stuff funny, that's fine. That's no ill will to them, no judgment on them. They're not my people. But we push ourselves out there trying to be liked by as many people as possible. And that connection, or that need for connection with everyone isn't good. Seth Godin says, when you market to everyone, you market to no one. You've got to polarize and divide to some degree. I think there's a line which only you can decide as to how much you try and polarize. And if you go out there and you polarize by being yourself, that's one thing. But if you try and go out there to really, really polarize, that can sometimes backfire, in my opinion.
No, I agree. And I think to summarize that point, we're blurring the lines between connection and approval.
Yeah, absolutely.
When we're so like, yes, I do agree with what you're saying. We are hardwired for connection. Yes, this is 100% true. I think when we confuse connection and approval, that's when things get a little bit confusing for ourselves as well, and we find ourselves in a bit of trouble. And to be honest, I think we find ourselves in a bit of like heartache, confusion, a lot of the horrible, like ugly feelings that we don't like to confront in ourselves. So I think, yeah, be yourself. And then it being yourself is kind of like a filtration system. You filter out the people that do not resonate with you, that you don't connect with, and the people that you do connect, like that's your tribe. That's the people that you want to have those relationships with and have those connections with, because they will understand you. And I think ultimately, like what we all want is to be understood.
Yeah, and going back to the connection versus approval side, connection and approval bring out two very different chemical reactions. So approval's dopamine. Approval is oh, someone liked my post on Facebook. Boom, you get that dopamine rush, and that's why you go back and check it and check it and check it and check it. But when you want the really nice kind of endorphins of connection, it's almost like the approval is, yes, you're lovely, we like what you do, that's fantastic, dopamine. But somebody who loves you and wants to be kind of close to you and almost hug and cuddle you, that's the real kind of connection. And it's, how do you get the chemical reaction from being hugged, from not actually hugging random people, but from being connected to people? And it's really interesting, and it's a chemical reaction at the end of the day, and your body responds to it differently. Dopamine peaks and drops, endorphins kind of last. They're a very, very different hit. And I think it's really, really fun. I was just thinking as well, when you're talking about this stuff, that when you speak at the Foot and Ankle show this year, there are going to be people who absolutely love what you're saying, or me for one, because it's going to be brilliant. And there are going to be people who just go, who the fuck's this? And, and I'm not going to like it. And the key thing is, who do you listen to? Well, you listen to the people who say, I like what you do, I'm interested in it, what else can I find out? And you don't listen to the people who go, oh, it doesn't work for me, but I thought I'd tell you anyway. Don't listen to them.
See, I was having this, and if you don't mind, I think I might impose my presentation on you before I actually present on stage, if that's okay.
I expected you to do multiple times, so yes, it's fine. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I just thought, consent is great. Consent is lovely. We love consent. And so, no, I was having this like internal debate the other day, and I was having this debate actually externally with a colleague of mine, and she was like, the people that don't like it, they're probably jealous. And I like the fact that she said probably, because it's not a hardcore fact that they are simply jealous. It's not. I think sometimes we confuse jealousy with people that struggle to reach the bar that has been set, or that we accidentally set. Like if we do accidentally raise a bar a bit higher unintentionally without wanting to do so, they struggle to reach that. And I was thinking, like, okay, with my presentation, and I've put a lot of work into it, because people are paying for these tickets. They're not cheap tickets. They're actually quite expensive, even for students as well. When you look at the pricing, I think it's like $45-50. I wanted to make it worth their while, so I've been putting a lot of effort into it, and I was researching like branding techniques and branding paradigms. And branding paradigms I don't really understand, but I'm like trying to like crunch this down to make it simple and understandable. Because I think it's important to understand branding paradigms when you do your own personal branding, because you need to know how to market. Like, are you marketing with leading with the patient perspective? Are you marketing with what you can offer, like your own perspective? Like, how are you leading it? Or how are you leading your, anyways, that's that weird. I went off on a tangent, sorry. So but I was having this internal debate about, you know, who's gonna like my presentation, who's not gonna like it. And I was thinking, okay, like I know I'm gonna get critical feedback. I know it's not gonna be pleasant to hear, but what do I take in? What do I not take in? And I think ultimately any criticism that's gonna help me grow professionally, academically, or even personally, that criticism I can take to heart and I can take with me. But anything that is gonna be bordering on, oh, we just don't like her.
Hmm?
I think that I'm just gonna have to leave it, just take it at face value and leave it where it is.
Hmm.
But
That takes practice. That takes practice, because when people say things to you which are not very flattering, or maybe a little bit judgmental or attack, and you know, I'd be lying if I said I didn't get this little bit of a, oh, but it's how long you sit with it and make you feel bad about it until you go, thank you for that. What can I learn from it? Cool, bye. And you just push it to one side. And it's, you know, I say that in a very kind of flippant and very easy way, and it's not easy. It's not easy at all. But what I find happens is that people worry about doing something because they anticipate they're going to get a particular response, and it's like, well, actually, you don't know. You know, you're playing a game of chess where you're thinking 5 moves ahead and you haven't made move 1 yet. So make move 1 and see what happens. And it's Mark Twain as a phrase, Mark, or a quote from Mark Twain, which is something along the lines of, you know, a million and one things have problems have beset my life, but none of them have actually happened. Because what he's talking about is the all the things which will go wrong, which you create up here, that don't actually come into fruition.
yeah.
What was interesting as well, when you were talking about, you know, put a lot of work into your presentation. I know it's going to be epic. I'm thoroughly looking forward to it, which is why I've asked to kind of introduce you, because it's like I want to build you up in a way which is respectful to what you've done and what I see, which is someone who's bloody amazing and really making a difference and challenging people, but doing exactly what I stand for, which is be yourself. And you're trying to provide value. You're trying to provide value for people. They turn up and they get value. I'm going to burst your bubble a little bit. That's not your job.
No.
No. The only people who can get value from anything which anyone else does is themselves. And you only have to provide them with one insight, one thing. They come away from your presentation with one thing. That's all you need to do. So you work out what's the most important message you want them to take away. And that's what you give to them. Because if you load them up with 150 different concepts, they will come away with maybe 5, and then they won't act on any of them. But if you give them one thing and say, this is the one thing I want you to take away from this, this is the one thing I want you to go away and think about, and that's where the value is. And you are only entitled to your hard work. You're not entitled to any of the rewards. You know, that's the rewards. The rewards either come or they don't. You can't control that.
Yeah.
Sorry,
That's a
burst your
really
bubble
good
now.
point. No, I appreciate that, because I was kind of like, this was a bit of a conflict that I was, a bit of an internal conflict that I was going through, because I was like, okay, well, you know, I want to add value to the people that are coming to this presentation. Even if it's one person that comes to the presentation, because I present at like 1:30 on Saturday afternoon, which is like the last day of the show. And I'm like, I think people are going to be so overwhelmed with the previous amazing presentations that are going to be. So by the time they get to mine, it's going to be like, okay, like we're a bit oversaturated. We've had too much information come at us. So I'm kind of expecting probably not a lot of people to show up in the first place. But for the people that do show up, even if it is just one person, I want that person to feel like whatever I've brought to the table adds value. And honestly, like that feeling of wanting to add value to somebody else's life is so overwhelming. And I think we also do this, like we make this mistake of thinking that as students, when we're with our patients, when we're on placement, when we're even as a practitioners, because you're constantly burdened by like, okay, well, am I fulfilling my job criteria? Am I going above and beyond? Am I adding value? And I think even with our dissertation, like I want to add value to my dissertation. And that wanting to add value is just, it feels like more of like a monkey on my back. It feels like a burden. It's not a pleasant feeling because it feels like just so much pressure. But I think what you said today, like it kind of helps because I can only bring so much to the table. Whatever value you want to take from it is, it's more of a personal thing. Like I can't control that. Like it's not for me to decide what means value to you, or what meaning you want to take from it. Like and I think that boils down to a control issue.
Well, but that's, we what all the stuff we talk about ourselves, it's, we're more interested in ourselves. It's our own self-importance. We think everyone should listen to us because we're the most important people out there, and actually no one notices what we say anyway. So it does, yeah. And wanting to give people value and wanting to see them get better or develop or learn something, that's service. So, using a coachy term, that's service. You want to serve them and make them feel better. But once the words come out of your mouth and the clicker goes through on the slides on the PowerPoints, that's as much as you can do. You do the work. What happens after that? It's out of your control. It's like throwing a snowball into hell, or throwing a snowball down a mountain. You don't know what's going to happen. And it's actually quite nice when you get to that point and you kind of go, yeah, I'm going to give it my all, and whatever happens, happens. Because I can guarantee you could do market research. You could find out exactly what people want. They tell you exactly what they want from a presentation. You'll deliver it, and some people won't like it. They'll go, oh yeah, that's what I did want that, but not like that. And some people are just unsatisfied with life. And a lot of people will watch your presentation, and the ones who get triggered will be the ones who sit there and think about where they're not doing what you're doing, or they're not using the skills that you're demonstrating. And they'll feel this kind of internal conflict. And then the only thing they can do is just react by criticizing you, because that's what people do.
Yeah. That kind of sucks though.
Well, that's human nature. I love people for that. And you're showing them the door, but they have to open it and walk through it.
This is so true. And I think my mom will 100% agree with you, because I was such a rebel when she was raising me. I think even now I'm still very rebellious.
I haven't noticed.
Fuck you, Dave. So her and I were chatting, and she was just like, I can show you what will work for you, and I can show you how to help you, and I can show you how to improve, but I can't like I can take the horse to the pond, but I can't make the horse drink the water. So it's kind of like that. And I love that you said that, because instantly I thought of my mom.
As a dad of 3 children, 2 of them teenagers, and one of them is just done a GCSEs. I get this whole idea. And I've had conversations with them, because I remember what it was like to be that age. I remember what I was like at that age, and it wasn't brilliant. And I remember where I am now, and you kind of go through this developmental pathway. We all do. And I remember saying to my daughter, look, she's now 16, but kind of like 15 last year. I say to her, look, I can see things that you can't see, but you will not believe any of that, because while you respect me as your dad to some degree, you will also go, these adults, they know nothing. They know nothing at all. And I said, you won't believe me. You'll just have to go and make your own mistakes. But just trust that I've got your best interests at heart. And there was a funny quote which I read a while back now, which was it was a teenager. So it was a guy's 20, when he was a teenager. He said it was amazing. He said, at 13, he said, I thought my parents were just really stupid. And he said, when I got to 20, I was surprised by how much they'd improved. And it's just this whole idea that actually at 13, 14, 15, you're never going to see your parents for what they are, which is, completely loving and caring on the whole. They want you to do the best. They're looking out for you. They're scared shitless about what might happen to you. You can't see it because you don't want to see it, because you believe you're right and everyone else is wrong. When you get to 20, you see the world from a very, very different place. And then when you have children, oh God. I mean, I'm sure I've apologized to my parents many times and gone, now I understand. Now I understand what a twat I was, and I'm really sorry, you know, because you're in a very different position. But it's just the way things are. It's the way things are.
Yeah.